Persona 5 saved me. I know a statement like this may sound a little melodramatic or ridiculous, but I really mean it when I say this. Persona 5 affected me a lot as a person, not just in terms of turning into a big Persona fan, but also playing a part in helping me be more comfortable with myself as a person and really appreciate what I have in my life. For context on why I feel so strongly about Persona 5 and how I got to this point, let's go back to 2017, 18-year-old me. I actually didn't know a whole lot about the Persona series. All I knew of Persona at the time were memes about Persona 4. I was very new to social media and Twitter, but everyone and their mother was talking about this new game, Persona 5. It got high review scores, all the streamers on Twitch were playing it, and I kept seeing a bunch of clips about it on Twitter and YouTube. The characters looked cool, the aesthetics was oozing with charm with the amazing animation and flashy moves, and when I was watching people play it, the plot was grabbing me. Despite seeing all this praise for the game, I actually didn't care to get the game at all. The biggest reason was I just didn't like RPGs, which is gonna make the point of how Persona 5 saved my life even weirder, I imagine. Yes, RPGs are actually some of my least favorite kinds of games. The main problem I have with them is that a lot of them are ungodly long, which does make sense for a genre of this kind, but it turned me off with the attention span I have and the lack of time I had with school and working at the time. The grinding aspect of RPGs really made it boring when it came to viewing the games, and the grinding methods tended to be very tedious. I also just didn't find the turn-based aspects too interesting as a combat system. When it came to playing them myself, I played Pokemon Gen 3, 4, and 6. I ended up feeling pretty unsatisfied when I finished them. The Mario and Luigi games I thought were good, but mostly because I really liked the world of Mario and what those games did with the world. As big as Final Fantasy was in pop culture, besides Final Fantasy VII, the franchise just never grabbed my attention, especially with the mostly negative reception Final Fantasy XIII had at the time. Then there was Sonic Chronicles, which, ooh boy, definitely one of the worst RPG games out there, and it super turned me away from wanting to play any more of them. So with this history of not enjoying RPGs, how did I start gaining interest in wanting to know more about Persona 5? Smash Ultimate. Smash Ultimate released back in November of 2018, and it was a massive landmark of gaming all around. Everyone was here, and everyone in the world was going to play it. At the time, I was deep into Smash and was even a competitor for a small amount of time. A month later, after the release of Smash Ultimate and the Game Awards was on, we got a sudden surprise video trailer. It was Persona 5 related, but it wasn't exactly clear on what this would be, until we saw what Joker caught in his hand.
Is treasure of all. What?
Smash Bros? Is this for real?
Joker was announced as the first big DLC character for Smash Ultimate. When this trailer happened, I screamed so loud that I lost my voice for the whole day. It sounds kinda crazy, I still didn't care to play the game because it was an RPG, but seeing the poster boy character make it into one of my favorite fighting game series made me react in such an ecstatic way. You could say this was the spark that made me really want to play Persona 5, but we're not exactly there yet. So Joker, or Randomamia as he's referred to, comes out, and gameplay wise he wasn't my kind of character, and as a spectator he was pretty boring to watch. But looking at the character and how he turned out in terms of aesthetics, he was so damn cool looking. I didn't play him seriously, but I played him a lot just for how cool he was. This also sparked a fascinating headcanon for me which involved Bayonetta. The two looked awfully like each other. So I thought to myself, what if Bayonetta was Ren's mother? And just like that, that simple idea started making me take multiple cool pictures featuring Bayonetta and Ren, mother and son. which also made Ren and the Phantom Thieves play a bigger role in my fanfictions because Bayonetta was a major character in my Smash fanfiction universe. That sparked me into watching more Persona 5 related content on the game and reading the wiki about the characters and the plot points. I was pretty happy that I had found a new interest. But then 2020 happened. A certain pandemic broke out, and then the whole world went into quarantine. Everyone was now stuck in their homes, and the normal life that we were living was now put on hold for the foreseeable future. During this time, it was like you couldn't go a day without hearing about some horrific event on social media or on the news. It was too depressing to be in the world. I was slowly watching everyone lose their humanity one by one, basic understandings of common sense just being thrown out the window, or people just being straight up cruel to each other. Earlier, I mentioned Smash playing a huge part of my life. Well, that started to go away after the many waves of statements of horrible misconduct taking place within the community. A community that helped me find more friends and make an interest in wanting to compete in fighting games was now forever tarnished for me, which eventually led me to quit playing Smash and not watching any content surrounding it altogether due to the horrible things that took place. It became harder to trust people, on top of dealing with the struggles of getting used to online only school, friends slowly leaving me. My current relationship at the time was also getting worse. I started to feel worse concerning my mental health or my purpose of wanting to be around in the world. I was lost. But there was a bright spot during this era of the pandemic. On February 19th, 2021, I got to play my first Persona game, Persona 5 Strikers. Yeah, despite Persona 5 Royal coming out a year prior, I still chose to avoid it because, again, I wasn't a big turn-based RPG kind of guy. So I figured to myself, maybe trying an action RPG with Dynasty Warriors combat would get me more invested. Yeah, it is weird that I started with the sequel instead. So, Persona 5 Strikers became my first Persona game, and it was the only game I was playing at the time. So, did it manage to hook me? Well, obviously it did since I'm making this video. The better question is, how much did it hook me? Well, let's run through the list. I have two 100% completed save files in Persona 5 Strikers on the PC version, with a 100% save file on the console version. So I've beaten this game 3 times. I've beaten Persona 5 Royal multiple times with almost 250 plus hours in total. I have beaten all 3 Persona dancing games. I got Persona 4 Golden and Persona 3 FES, just never got around to really get into them. I've watched all 4 Persona 3 movies, all of the Persona 4 anime, and the Persona 5 anime. I've dumped over 480 hours into Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, and I have cosplayed Ryuji, Ren, and Yu Narukami for the past 2 Halloweens. So, yeah, I guess you could say that I'm a big Persona fan now. Playing Persona 5 Strikers actually got me to finally play Persona 5 Royal in June of 2021. It took me 2.5 weeks to finish the game, and I remember playing it non-stop. On one particular day, I was playing the game for 18 hours that day. I slept for a small amount, ordered some food, and then every other time that I had, I just kept playing Persona 5 Royal. This was the first time an RPG has had a grip on my attention. I have now found my new hyperfixation. But what was it? What was it about Persona 5 that not only hooked me from a gameplay perspective, but made me feel to a point that I felt that it saved me at such a dire time? Of course, on top of the gameplay being so pristine, for me, it was the characters, the stories, and the theme. Persona 5 story isn't perfect. It is definitely not. And on social media, the P5 cast and its story has been harshly criticized, sometimes understandably so, a lot of the times unfairly and overhated for a lack of reading with pure ignorance. In my case, it was Persona 5 story that related to me the closest as a person. That feeling of being an outcast, it hit close to me. As someone who was never really popular in school, excluded out of groups and activities for not being seen as good enough, seeing the cast go through different variations of this type of outcasting hurt me. Whether it's your reputation being ruined by slander and lies, having to uphold a pristine and perfect reputation to avoid being excluded out of a social circle or opportunities, even if it meant casting aside your beliefs. The fear of being outcasted due to your past background and how it will negatively affect your present and your future. Feeling that you're powerless to stand up against higher ups, authority figures, or just people in general in fear that no one will listen or feel you won't make a difference. Seeing these characters go through these struggles made me feel understood as a person. It inspired me more to help these characters during these struggles where I didn't get that same amount of help. Maybe it's because this is my first Persona game, but I've grown more attached to the Phantom Thieves and the confidants in Persona 5 than I do with the cast of Persona 4 and Persona 3. One of the main standout characters for me being Ryuji Sakamoto. Ryuji is my favorite Persona 4 character. Period. Besides Kanji in Persona 4, Ryuji is the character I related to the most. While unfortunately bogged down by being the butt monkey and the comic relief of the group, he ended up being the one that hit closest to me. He's not the brightest guy, and can be pretty childish, but I admire his strong dedication and passion of wanting to help others, calling out people's BS and fighting for his beliefs. I love the fact that he went through an arc throughout the entire game. When he started in the Phantom Thieves, he wanted to do this to get back at those who have wronged others, similar to how he and his friends have been wronged. And as the Phantom Thieves got bigger, he started losing his way and started focusing on getting more famous and picking up girls. Which made sense because he had lost everything due to what Kamoshida had done to him, and he was outcasted by everybody, especially his track team. Track was the one thing Ryuji held dear. It was what he felt that he could do to also lessen the burden on his mother, who was a single mother and also had to deal with abuse from his father. And when that was all taken away from him due to Kamoshida, he had nothing. And now he had the power to change the world. And now he was actually going to get noticed for something, to get looked up upon by people. The start of Sai's arc, when everything started going downhill, seeing him so frustrated at himself for losing sight of what he believed in, he hated it. He hated what he had become. With Ren's words, he was able to regain that motivation of his beliefs again and wanted to fight back. The call to Ren afterwards made it even better. This is one of my favorite scenes in the game.
Hey, it's me. About me yelling earlier, being framed, and the added bounty, it all felt like such bullshit. I lost it. I'm sorry. You too? It is confusing. We're wanted criminals now. Maybe I haven't changed at all since that time we went up against Kamoshida. I wanted to be a Phantom Thief because I thought even someone like me could be a hero. It made me so happy to be depended on. Guess it all went straight to my head. I thought I could do anything if it was for justice, but that'd make me no different from our targets. I called them shitbags, but I must be the shittiest of shitbags. I can't even joke about it.
Ta was another character that I grew very close to. A tragic story involving the loss of her mother, leading to her becoming a shut-in. After we change her heart, we get to see how she really is. She's introverted, deep into internet culture with her hyperfixations on technology, anime, Sojiro's curry, and she's not too great with crowds. As someone who was recently diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and struggling to accept myself, seeing a character like Futaba portrayed as well as she is and also experiencing the struggles I've experienced with just being who I am, it was a way of showing me that there's nothing wrong with me. I don't have any diseases or sicknesses, it's just how my brain is wired. I was motivated to want to keep Futaba's happiness, and seeing her growth in dancing and strikers showed me just how much she was able to grow. She even says it herself.
実は
I can go on and on about how much I really love each character's story, but this isn't a review, and we would be here for hours. Maybe someday. This series has touched my heart. I can recall that I cried a total of 6 times because of Persona 5. First starting with the banger finale of the vanilla portion of the game where all your rank 10 confidants come together to cheer on the Phantom Thieves, and then you bust a sinful shell to God's face.
Be gone.
Preposterous! You dare honor people's wishes!
The final confrontation with Maruki where it's just Ren and him fighting hand to hand, man to man as Maruki vents out his pain and frustration. The visual is so impactful.
Why? Why, Rumi? A reality where no one suffers.
Of course, I started bursting into tears when I started hearing the ending theme of the game, Our Light, because it hit me that my emotional and powerful journey had come to an end and I had finished that battle to shape my own future in this true reality. Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight, and I started tearing up and crying while seeing the gang dance to Yadabel's final boss music, and it reminded me back to when I first played Persona 5 Royal and got to this point, and how happy it made me to see the P5 cast that I grew attached to be so happy at this moment. Persona 5 Strikers, where the thieves dealt the final blow to the Demiurge and watched all the desires go back to the masses. It felt so good to finally reach this point after such a long fight. And of course, I couldn't help myself and cried from the final cutscene with the ending theme Towards a Dream playing in the background. Since this was my first Persona game, this one I remember hitting me the hardest that my long journey with the Phantom Thieves had ended. As the tears fell down my eyes, I realized that I love Persona. Here we are now, 2023. I'm here telling you all about how Persona 5 changed my life. Persona has helped remind me of how crucial having a bond with people really motivates you and helps your heart. When you have others who care just as much for you as you do for them. Someone to help bring you up. Whether you're blood related or strangers with matching interests, you can still have a meaningful bond. I have some of my closest friends who are mostly online and they mean the world to me. They inspire me to keep doing better. There will be times where I will waver and lose my way, but if I just continue to fight for what I believe in and stay on that path, I can have the power to change myself for the better and also maybe inspire others. I've reached that big checkpoint in my own foolish journey. I recently just graduated from my college with a bachelor's degree. Seeing all my friends and family be so proud of me, even if I wasn't one for showing it physically, in my heart, I was happy. And I was reminded that during those times where I struggled, Persona 5 was there as well. I'm so happy that I had the chance to experience it. Thank you, Persona 5, and thank you to the Phantom Thieves for changing my heart.
Never goodbye forever. We'll be back in a flash.
Sure will.
Yeah.
Until next time, Phantom Thieves.
And thank you for Tater Kemi, baby. Goth Mommy Dr. Supremacy. Best Persona girl. Let's go.